All right, what's up everybody? So today's video, as you can tell by the title, we're going to be going into scheduling your training. How do you schedule your training sessions? How do you schedule your week? What about off days? All that kind of stuff. So today's video, we're going to be diving into how I go about structuring my training and more so about the two methods that I like to use, or the two methods that I like to promote to scheduling your training throughout the week. And this is more of a schedule thing and a personality thing for each lifter. And I do want to go over the pros and cons so you guys can actually decide which type of schedule works better for you. And I'll give you a little bit of reasoning why. A lot of this is just going to have to involve a little bit of reflection, a little bit of self-awareness within your own schedule and your own habits. But it's something that I've experimented with both sides in the past. And I actually rotate through each of these phases every now and then in my training, depending on what my life is like at the moment. So with all that being said, it's going to be a little bit more of a freestyle video today. Don't want to keep this one too long for you guys, but to start it off, I think when you're managing and scheduling your training days and your off days, there's two good ways to do this. The first one's going to be scheduling it, so having your week scheduled, so picking which days you're training, which days you have off. That's good for some people. And then the other one's going to be kind of deciding as you go. And I'll get into that one second, but I do want to dive into having the actual scheduled week first. So this is going to be good for accountability. When you have your training sessions pre-planned, if you're someone that lacks discipline and kind of needs that set accountability, this is a really good way to do things. One of the biggest things that I see not work when you have a lower frequency program, as in training sessions throughout the week, not how often you hit each muscle. That just depends on the split. But let's say something like a 2 or 3 times a week full body split. That works really well for disciplined people, or if you have a scheduled session, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday at X time, that works a little bit better. But I do notice that the most inconsistent people in the gym are the people that follow the lower frequency splits. One way, and I'm not saying this is like the perfect fix for inconsistency in the gym, but if you can schedule your training sessions, this is going to be better for you if you're on a lower frequency most of the time, or if you're someone that does lack a little bit of discipline, can't quite build the habit. And obviously I talked about this a long time ago when I made my alternative to beginner programs video, and that's it's not even so much a structure thing for the program as it is an accountability thing and a schedule thing to make sure you actually go and do your sessions. So this is going to be great for accountability. It's also going to be good if you are somebody that likes to plan out certain things in your life, like generally for like older people, anyone that has kind of their life all set up. And when you're an adult, obviously you plan things out a little bit more. I'm slowly getting into that and realizing how that stuff works. I'm a terrible planner, so that's a little bit of a difficult thing in life for me. But if you're somebody that does like to plan out certain events like a week before or a month before, this works really well because you can pick your non-training days and adjust accordingly based on what you have going on for that week or whatever. Like if you're somebody that has generally a pretty consistent routine, let's say you have like busy Wednesdays at work, or you go out on and you do like Friday date night every week or something like that, or you always do X event on Sunday, like watch the football game or something. Having a pre-selected schedule is going to work really well for somebody like that. So if you're like a routine-oriented people, or I'm just reading my notes, if you're a routine-oriented person, that's going to be very good for you. So if you're somebody that has a very similar week and your job and your regular day-to-day life is very consistent and you know which days are better for you to train and which days you should be taking off, it's best to kind of rotate your best to schedule your training around those days. Like if Wednesdays are busy at work, Fridays you do date night, and Sundays you're doing football, like pick Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday to get your sessions in, if that makes sense. So very good if you have a consistent routine. The con to this style of training is that there's less flexibility if you do miss a session, or if you have to go do a training session, let's say after poor recovery and you sleep bad and you don't get good nutrition the day before. This is where it does have a little bit of a lack of flexibility. When you're off days, as in days that you're very busy or days that you don't anticipate going to the gym, it can make it pretty tricky to reschedule your training. So a lot of the time when you have this type of schedule, a lot of people miss sessions and they don't get to make them up. And a lot of people, basically, if you do go in, like let's say your recovery is bad and you can't fall asleep and you sleep 4 hours that night, like your training's definitely going to suffer the next day. And I don't want to fear monger and say, oh, if recovery's not perfect, you can't go to the gym, because I think that's pretty dumb to an extent. It makes sense. Like, obviously there's a place to draw the line. If you sleep 2 hours, probably don't go to the gym. If you miss 2 out of your 8 hours of sleep and you get 6 hours, like you're probably good to go to the gym. It's kind of your call at that point. But in general, it's a little bit of a less flexible program. And that's leads me into my next point, which is that kind of deciding as you go style approach. And this is what I'm taking at the moment. This is usually what I do unless I'm in a little bit of a busier point in life. But right now, where I have not at quite as much going on and I have a little bit more flexibility with my training, it works really well. I'm training in the mornings, and pretty much every morning I have at least a couple hours free, earlier than I would like, but I'm not going to complain about my own life in this video. So deciding as you go, this is the method that I personally prefer. And there's a couple of reasons for this, but generally what this is going to be is you want to plan on doing every single day in a row. Whether you start your week on Sunday or Monday, it doesn't matter. For the sake of the video, I'll say, let's say you start your week on Monday. Sunday's the last day of the week. If you're on a 5-day split, you plan on being done with that split by Friday. So what this is you front load your training sessions and you back load your off days. Your off days, what they essentially are with this type of split is they are like reserves that you can slowly take out. It's like sick days at work that you accumulate. You can just take a sick day and then you can push everything back one day because you have room for error within your training. It makes things easier to reschedule. This is the type of training that I use, the type of schedule that I use. Just works pretty well for where I'm at in life right now. Basically, you're stockpiling off days towards the end of the week, getting all your training done the first few days. So the pro to this, there's a couple of them. It's more flexibility for rescheduling sessions, and you can use the off days as needed. It's also the type of person this is good for is going to be lifters that have more of like an intrinsic motivation. So if you're someone that doesn't struggle with having that motivation to go to the gym, this is a really good type of schedule for you, because if you have the desire to go to the gym, you don't really need the accountability. You don't really require the discipline to be going to the gym. You're just going to end up going anyways because it's something that you either have the discipline to do or something that you actually desire to go and do, which obviously you're going to go do it. You're going to go to the gym. Very good for experienced lifters too that have just built up that discipline over time. So with this type of split, the reason why I like this so much is because some days that I have are kind of busy. Like, as consistent as I think my schedule is, there are days where maybe I sleep like shit and I'm not sleeping very good for a night. And let's say I sleep for 4 or 5 hours. I'm not going to train that next day when I know for a fact that I have those 2 hours on Saturday morning to push everything back a day. That's totally fine. And I know that I have that extra flexibility and I'm motivated enough and I want to train enough to where even if I don't have the flexibility, I'll find a way to make it happen. So that's kind of the difference between someone that maybe needs that discipline and accountability versus someone that's, I wouldn't even say I'm a highly motivated lifter. Like, I train in the morning, and just because my life kind of says that I have to. I don't necessarily like that, so I do struggle with motivation. I'm not trying to say I'm this perfect lifter, because I'm not. Like, literally yesterday's workout, I was yawning between legit every set. I'm not, by no means I'm trying to say I'm perfect, but that's all besides the point. So this type of schedule is good for people that are motivated. You're going to find a way to get your sessions in, but you want to have that reserve of off days to take time off as needed in case of poor recovery, in case something comes up and maybe you have to miss a session, or maybe it's better to miss a session. Maybe there's something else you want to do that morning or that night and you have the room for error. Like, you have the time to take that day off and just push everything back a day. Like, that time, it makes sense to do that. Like, why get a lift in and miss something else that you'd rather do or that you have to do in life when you know you can just get that session in Saturday or Sunday and you can push everything back a day? That's my point with that. So the only real downside to this one is if you're not the most motivated or disciplined person, but I already kind of touched on that. But either way, at the end of the day, you can rotate between these two styles of training. Like, you don't have to just pick one and always go from there. You can even rotate weekly. Like, if you have a certain week that you know is going to be a little bit busier, like if you're someone that has, let's say, a job where you have certain deadlines to meet and you know certain months are going to be more difficult than others, like you can structure your flexibility within your training. Like, you can say, all right, well, I know the first month of each quarter, first 2 months of each quarter throughout the year, pretty straightforward. I'm not that busy. I can just kind of do whatever I want. Last month of each quarter, I'm going to need a little bit more structure. And that's obviously just an example, but a couple different ways to schedule your training. Let me know if you have any questions, but I think this is just overall my 2 cents on how to schedule, put everything together. So let me know if you have questions. Let me know if you have any ideas or anything in the comments. That's it for today.